difference between livelihoods, enterprises, and entrepreneurship, because they're very different, and startups. They're very different things, right? So broadly, this is what we do at WeHub. I'm so sorry I could not join the call yesterday. So this is just a introduction I wanted to give, and and a lot of the questions that we were going to be talking about will touch upon this, but broadly we'll have three general questions and two individual questions for each of you. And the request is to keep it within 1 to 2 minutes, given we have so many brilliant speakers and very little time. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dipti. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to the Innovation Ecosystem Summit. So we are here with a new session today, a very interesting session that's focused mainly on women leaders. And as we said, the session says something on the resurgence of women leaders and how are they marching towards an inclusive ecosystem. So without wasting any further time, I'll just quickly introduce our speakers in the dais today. We have Deepti Ravula, CEO, we have Government of Telangana, as a moderator for the session. We have Mabel Chacko, co-founder, CEO, Open Financial Technologies. We have Nisari Mahesh, founder and CEO, Herd Money Talks. We have Sangeeta Vavi, Director, Startup Business, Microsoft. And Sucharita Ishwar, founder and CEO, Catalyst for Women Entrepreneurship. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. First of all, accepting our request to be a part of this session. So over to you, Dipti, to take the session forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shankar, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure being here, and we have brilliant doers among us today, and let's get the conversation rolling. So one of the first questions I would like to ask each of you is that there's a lot of conversation around empowerment and entrepreneurship, and many a times for women, they're both used interchangeably. So we wanted to first find out. So Mabel, starting with you, what does women entrepreneurship mean, and is it the same as empowerment? And I'd like to request all the other speakers also to be a part of this question. So starting with Mabel, yes.
Well, women entrepreneurship and empowerment are pretty much hand in glove with each other. They're not the same thing, but at the same time, one leads to the other, is what I strongly believe. Women entrepreneurship leads to empowerment of not just the entrepreneur themselves, but also of all the people whom they interact, whom they work with, or whom they employ. I've seen it as an example, within my own journey at Open, where we are 2 women entrepreneurs and among 4 co-founders. And we've seen, at least personally, I've seen it that, we tend to have more women in the workforce. We used to be a 50-50 for a very long time. But, now, of course, when tech hiring was zoomed up, we lost that a little bit, but still we are more than 37% women within the team in the ratio, and over 60% women in the senior leadership roles at Open. Somewhere it's got to do with the fact that there are 2 women entrepreneurs in the senior management as founders, and somewhere there's a trickling down effect. And I tend to believe that such a thing does having women entrepreneurs leads to more empowerment of women, because women tend to understand what are the challenges other women face. They're there to give a supporting ear, a lending shoulder to another woman who's going through similar or same challenges, and hence be more empathetic bosses and empathetic leaders.
Yep. Thank you, Mabel. So Nisari, I'm just going with the order in which our tiles are appearing. I'm so sorry about that.
Thank you, Deepti. So according to me, I don't want to keep a gender when you talk about entrepreneurship. An entrepreneur is somebody who is innovating to something to solve a problem that exists in the society. So in that way, I don't want to differentiate like women entrepreneur or male, female, that kind of division there. But of course, like Mabel said, entrepreneurship, when more and more women innovating to solve a problem in the society or coming forward to do something different or take up a career with a little bit of risk, that is actually empowering them. that is giving a sense of more confidence and empowerment for them to break the shell, come out, and make a change in the society. Because what I felt is that until recently, entrepreneurship is not seen as a career for women. Many women who pursue a business or an entrepreneurship, they were doing something in the lines which they are comfortable with. Say, suppose fashion, whatever, food related, lifestyle related. These are the segments women would explore, which actually hobby turned business. So I would say that was more of a kind of business, not entrepreneurship. But nowadays, we see a difference that women are coming forward. They are making a difference by having innovative ideas. So women entrepreneurship, in fact, contribute to two things. One is empowering women. Second is identifying more solutions for the problems that women face. Because women have a separate set of problems, which, women founders only have to come forward to make a change and solve those kind of problems. So having more women entrepreneurs, definitely that contributes to the economy and good for having innovative solutions for the unique problems or the things that women need today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is a very nice perspective. So Sangeeta, from the corporate side, how would you like to address this conversation? Because corporates and diversity is a big conversation these days, right?
Yeah, no, so, women entrepreneurship and not just corporates, because you mentioned that, you are also looking at rural women entrepreneurs and all. If you look at the entire landscape of India, we are talking about entrepreneurs. It could be a small, kirana shop in a small rural town, which is run by a woman. That itself gives that lady financial independence and identity, more, a stronger voice in her span of control. And that, of course, translates into impacting the family, because while we talk about diversity, inclusion, gender obviously is always the first pivot because it's an underrepresented community, be it in corporate, in the startup ecosystem, or even in small medium businesses. Diversity and inclusion needs to start in your family, right? As you are growing up. If you are born and brought up with that kind of culture, you will take it forward. So definitely entrepreneurship in any form gives you that financial independence, and that itself translates into empowerment in that sense.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. And Sucharita, yes, your insights, please. You're somebody I really look up to, and your work has been super amazing. So, yeah.
Thank you. And great to be with all you dynamic women entrepreneurs. Well, I have been working with women for 20 plus years in different ways. Grassroots level women, corporate women, helping them to get into corporate jobs, helping them to get into leadership positions, and now for the last 7 years with women entrepreneurs. And what I have seen across all these various avatars of women is that financial independence gives a whole new confidence and autonomy to a woman to pursue her dreams, to live the life that she wants. And that is what really made me get into looking at, should I set up an ecosystem for women to start up and scale up their businesses? And there were some people who said that, hey, what? Business is business. Now, what is this male entrepreneur, women entrepreneur? So we did a study to actually map what is the ecosystem for women who are wanting to be in business or already in business. And we did find that they did face some special challenges. The first one was in access to finance. And both when they went for debt funding or equity funding, there were hurdles which they especially had to face. And they lacked confidence. They felt they didn't know about business skills. They were not part of networks. They did not know how to expand to new markets. And they were not using technology, and that doesn't work, in today's world, in the world of business. And so they were looking for a special space for their needs to be addressed as women entrepreneurs and mentoring in that area. So that's what I went ahead and started working on 4 years ago. Today we have more than 3,600 on our platform. And it's really great to see the way women are coming up. Of course, not just as entrepreneurs, but across the board, in politics, heads of government, heads of countries, sports, you name it. So it's a great time for women. That's what I say.
Thank you so much, Sucharita. That's a brilliant answer. So coming down to the next question, and again, this is the moderator questions, and then we'll go down to one-on-one, if I may. So, how much of a role as a government, T-Hub, V-Hub, and all these initiatives set up by the government of Telangana, our job is to make sure that, as Nisari rightly pointed out, entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship, right? But we still felt a need that we have to create a platform like V-Hub, which is specifically for women. So wanted to get all of your insights on, is it really needed that women get a special platform? And is there still a need? And how long should we have a separate platform for women to scale? And what are your insights on what are the roles and responsibility of such a platform if it exists? Because now if you see here, we are talking about the resurgence of women leadership, and we are 5 women on the panel. So what is your insight into the conversations that we are having about women entrepreneurship, special platforms, special conferences, and what would you like to suggest on how these kinds of platforms are supporting the entrance of women into various avenues, and what should be the next steps for initiatives such as us? Yeah. Mabel?
Well, much needed, and I would say any initiative towards promoting or supporting women entrepreneurship, especially the ones that are driven by the government, is a much needed, need to be addressed. Like Nisri said, entrepreneurship doesn't have a gender, but unfortunately, we are entrepreneurs in India, where somewhere or the other, through the entire process, the fact that you're a woman does come out in multiple conversations, be it when you're on the client side out in the field, trying to talk to customers, or even when we are trying to pitch to investors. I'll give you 2 anecdotes from my own life. When I started out as a women entrepreneur right out of college in 2006, I was trying to do biometric payments for financial inclusion in Gujarat. The biggest problem I used to face is that, men wouldn't just talk to me. They would just say that, "Ladki aayi hai, pata nahi, pant ke kuch aa gayi, who's going to talk to her?" And for a very long time, I had only women coming and speaking to me, women coming in, giving me their biometric data. And then I kept wondering, am I building something for women only? Am I building a women-centric product, or is it something that's going to be neutral, gender neutral? The other instance, time and again in my earlier stints as an entrepreneur, I've had investors who just thought that ever since I teamed forces with my co-founder Anish, and we were not married to each other back then, many people, some investors have thought that, I was just Anish's secretary who would come for the meeting. And it's only when I gave them the card that, they were like, "Oh, you're a co-founder." I didn't realize that. So time and again, these conversations do come out, and it helps a lot to have, times have changed dramatically over the past 15 years. Now, no, I'm not, I know, even though I'm Anish's wife, no one asked me, the question that, "Oh, you are a husband and wife in business. Now, how does that equation work out?" Not anymore. But so we have a more, gender sensitive, we have a very gender sensitive or gender conscious, I would say, ecosystem that's come out over the course of the years. Things have changed a lot when it comes to conversations about women entrepreneurs, but we still are a long way to reach the fact that to reach a level where it doesn't matter whether you are a male entrepreneur or a female entrepreneur, you just get treated as equal. And all initiatives from the government, from any independent bodies as well, will put in a lot of force for such kind of equality in gender to be coming into the form of entrepreneurship and taking it forward.
Thank you, Mabel. Ms. Arik?
Yeah, though technically there is no difference between a male and female entrepreneur, but that ecosystem is very much a need because women need that additional hand-holding to do a lot of things. Because I work for my venture, Harmony Talks, is into financial empowerment of women. So we work on two verticals. One is helping women to make their own investments, have access to finance like go for credit and all. A second is we work towards promoting women entrepreneurship. So we do programs a lot in various platforms for promoting women entrepreneurship. So like Sucharita mentioned, I come from a banking background. I've worked with the credit department of bank. So I know when a woman applies for a loan, it is difficult to get it sanctioned. If it is, especially if it is a business loan, it is difficult to convince the credit officer that this business is serious. So there are two aspects of it. One is that there are some credit policies where a single women applicant cannot apply for a loan. Still some of the banks follow that. You need to have a male co-borrower or a guarantor to get a loan sanctioned. Some of the banks still follow that thing. Secondly, many women, they are not getting that guidance for having the financial modeling for their business. So when it comes to the business plan creation, even though they are very confident, their product and service is really good, in their business plan, that is not coming out well. So because of that, if the business plan is not well focused and well drafted, the bank will not get a confidence to give you a loan. So these kind of challenges, to make all this clear, to have that clear vision, to have that right financial modeling, to get the exposure to the right network, ecosystem, mentors, investors, the entire networking platform for all this, an ecosystem or a separate platform as women is very much required. And it is a good sign that all states are coming up with separate incubators and programs for handholding women. And it is actually creating a difference in the society for having a lot of women entrepreneurs, not just coming up, but trying and testing their business in different fields. And even going for funding and all this, at least women are coming out. They're doing a lot. It will not happen without the help of this ecosystem, which is everywhere now.
Sangeeta?
Yeah, great points both by Maple and Nisari, right? These are gender stereotypes, especially what Maple you said. Seeing a woman in a room, you assume that the person is not a leader, but an admin or a secretary. But those gender stereotypes, I think, are breaking, and ecosystem builders like government, corporates, VCs, investors, they can all come together and help one create awareness, because it's not that there is no intent from people to encourage underrepresented population for entrepreneurs, but I think in some cases the awareness also is missing. So initiatives, what the government can bring, the corporates can bring, join hands together to come up with an initiatives, extremely useful and also impactful. If you look at what happened in the Indian startup ecosystem a few decades ago, right? A lot of the entrepreneurs who saw success have been encouraging other upcoming new age entrepreneurs in terms of showing them the path. I think a similar thing is required for women, because typically, be it women in entrepreneurship or women in corporates, you need somebody to look up to. You need those role models, and helping build platforms, communities where everyone can come together. What Sucharita is essentially doing, right? The impact that her organization drives. These are the kind of initiatives which will help us bring more Maple, Nisaris, and Sucharitas out there. So yeah.
Sucharita? Mute.
Sorry. I'd just like to share two stories. One is about Vinita Bali, who used to head Britannia Industries, CEO of Britannia Industries. And so I remember she spoke at a conference and she said, when she would walk into a room, people would be looking behind her to see who's the boss that she is accompanying. So they were always looking for the male boss behind her. They could not believe that she is the boss. So that's one. The other story I'd like to say is one of our members from NCR. She is in the high-tech GPRS space. And she is not a young chick. She, I think, was in her early 40s when she went to the bank for a working capital loan. And the bank said, please give collateral your property. So she brought her property and gave it as collateral, the documentation. They said, your husband's signature has to be there. So she said, this is my self-acquired, I don't have a husband, she said. So then they said, then you have to get your father's signature. So she said, this is my self-acquired property. Why do I need my husband's, my father's, and XYZ's signature on this? And this is, I think, an attitude that prevails because it's a cultural factor. Just like we women also carry some cultural burdens or, orientations. The other gender also carries it. So that's how it is. And therefore, I do think that there is a need for special space for women entrepreneurs to talk about, to have people understand and share their concerns and find ways in which they can move forward. And also, let's not forget that, although we are so many women, we are beginning to see nowadays, we are still a very small minority, wherever you look, in whichever field. Only about, I think 15%, according to the Ministry of MSME, 15% of enterprises are women-owned. And that tells a story. So definitely, in answer to your question, I think there is a need for a special ecosystem to be created, which of course interfaces with others, the wider the networks and ecosystems that exist. You can't exist in a vacuum or, just stand by yourself in a silo. So that's what I would say, Deepthi.
Thank you so much, Sucharita. This is one question that we keep getting often.
Yes, I know that. That's why we did our study also.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, if with your kind permission, I'd like to go with Mabel. I wanted to really ask you, the open fintech platform that you're building, what, as you rightly pointed out in your previous answer, when you started out, people thought you were building only for women, right? So you wanted to really understand how you're actually building this platform and what is the benefit an entrepreneur can get. I'm not going to say women entrepreneur, but how can entrepreneurs benefit? And if women want to use it, what kind of support are you actually offering to them?
All right. So Open itself is not a women-centric product, but there are a lot of new age women-centric platforms that are coming when it comes to women. There are platforms like Basis and Salt, which are centered with women as a use case. So that's something that would be more relevant to a women audience because it helps them in financial planning and knowing their things. Open More isn't like a neobank. It's a digital banking platform for small businesses. Essentially, there's banking layer where all the money comes in and comes out, and then there are a lot of these tools that you use to manage your finances. So tools like invoicing, accounting, payroll, GST payments, for which you would use another set of tools and platforms. What Open does is it marries these two. It builds all the tools that an entrepreneur needs to manage his or her finances into one single platform. Now, having said that, there's one part I wanted to say that when you were in, I think the city was speaking about how credit underwriting was done for women, businesses owned by women in the traditional banking segment. It's very difficult for a small business to get a bank loan or even a credit card, because they go by the traditional model where you have to give a collateral, and the collateral has to be owned by or co-owned by a male partner, be it a father or a husband or someone else. So that becomes a need in the traditional underwriting model. Somewhere we're changing that by democratizing it a little bit more, by bringing in alternate ways to look at funding, credit scoring a small business through what their receivables by, because Open as a platform has got deep insights into what a business's receivables are like, what their payables are like, what kind of salaries they pay out, how prompt they are in their payments, how much GST gets filed by a particular business. So we use a lot of these as decisioning roles, as well as when it comes to more evolved startups, the amount of funding that they have received, or from which kind of investor they have received this funding. We take these kind of parameters to judge and underwrite loans for small businesses that use our platform. So somewhere, it's not a women-centric platform. It's more gender neutral, but at the same time, we try to ensure there's no bias against women in whatever we are building.
Thank you so much, Mabel. It is a much needed thing, as Sucharita was previously just mentioning. All the challenges that she was talking about, I think these kind of incremental changes will make a lot of monumental, disruptions, hopefully in the future. I will say still the future, because I think we have 5 more years to go before we don't have to carry a lot of papers to the office. So Nisari, coming down to you, you work a lot in the tier 2, tier 3 parts of the country, I presume. And if you can actually just talk about what kind of work are you doing, and also what kind of challenges do you actually encounter when you work with women entrepreneurs in these areas?
My venture, Harmony Talks, like I mentioned, is a financial platform for women. So when I started that, actually, many people have asked me why there is a need of a different financial platform for women. Are you politicizing finance? But my answer was not that, actually, because finance is an area where women need a hand-holding. Maybe it's blame it on traditional mindset, or because men take investment decisions in the family. When it comes to business, also men decide like, we do it this way. We are not having that financial conversations in many families in India. So that is where we felt, even I felt that there was personal reasons for that. I felt that there is a need where women need to be educated. We need to be creating more awareness about finance among women. So that's how Harmony Talk started. We started in 2019. So we actually dissected the problem. Like one is the financial literacy rate in India. So we have done, as per researches, it is about the financially literate women in India are about 24%, 24 or 25% only, which means majority of the investment decisions in the families are being taken care by men only. At the same time, an irony to this is that when it comes to domestic purchases, 80% of the decision makers are women, which means we are capable of making a lot of decisions. But when it comes to higher decision making, we are not making that step forward. So we decided to come up with a platform to solve this problem through a three-pronged approach. One is education, second is community building, and third is hand-holding them to make the right decisions. So when it comes to education, we are doing a lot of programs, a lot of financial awareness programs and workshops across India and various platforms, right from colleges, corporates, various NGOs, women platforms, startup platforms and all. Both financial awareness programs and helping with hand-holding women entrepreneurs to get their business modeling right. Second is that we are building communities like women-led communities and circles, starting from the college finance clubs to various, even it is a co-working space or any corporate or an office, there is a women as a finance club for women where we are encouraging more financial conversations. Third is that we are actually launching products on our platform, which means, for example, if a women customer is going to an aggregator platform to buy insurance, for example, they get lost in the mess because there are hundreds of insurance products listed. Out of that, how would I choose the right product for me? So we have decided we cherry pick, again, without any bias, we cherry pick the best products, women-centric products, whether it is in investments, loans, credits, or insurance. cherry pick them and make it facilitate in our platform, and also handhold women to say, suppose if they are applying for credit, many of them may not be knowing the exact documentation, what is required, what are the process and all. So we handhold them, at the same time help them to connect with the right plan or the product for their specific need. So that is what we are doing at Her Money Talks in a nutshell. A lot of focus in education and community building, and starting with product distribution also on the platform.
Thank you, Nisari. It's a very important thing, because one of the biggest examples of community building is the SHG movement that we see in India, right, Sucharita? That is one of the biggest enablers and one of the biggest financial schemes that we actually see in the country today. And we've seen that it's created a revolution, and we really wish you a lot of luck in creating a similar kind of revolution with your product as well. Now, coming down to you, Sucharita, very quickly. So one of the things that you spoke about previously was measuring, right? You did your survey. So can you just talk a little bit about the potential or the contribution of the women entrepreneurs to the Indian economy? Because there are so many white papers published, but with the work that you've done, can you actually explain a little bit to us about the potential of women entrepreneurship if the contribution of women was better measured? And again, we would like to seek your insights on what better measured means, and also appreciated, because there is tangible and intangible tracking. So if we can actually understand from you, how do we measure better?
Yeah, I'd like to start by saying that we are 50% of the population, or almost 50% of the population. But, and so we need to see how this half of the population is part of the economy and our society, and is contributing productively to every aspect of our nation. And therefore, there is a great need to have gender disaggregated data collected on every aspect of data that we collect. That's, I think something which all those who are working with development and with gender, with empowerment, feel very strongly about. I work with G20 on their Business 20 Women in Action Council for the last few years. And that's something which we have been recommending to all G20 governments, that please collect gender disaggregated data. And studies which the UN has done show that women, firstly, and I think Mabel and Nisari, you did mention it earlier, that women who are employed, especially as who have their own businesses or enterprises, typically employ more women. So they are bringing this half of the population into the mainstream. And especially knowing that women in the workforce is actually declining. It used to be 35% about 15 years ago. It has declined to 25% now, is what the official data shows, ILO and World Bank. And that is certainly a cause for concern. So, having more women out there who are in decision-making positions means more women are being brought into the economy. And also the data shows that women entrepreneurs particularly, or women who are earning money, they spend the majority of their income on their families first, and then the community. And we can see that all around. The women are typically doing a lot for the community, for environment, etc. And so therefore, all our development indicators are positively impacted when we bring women into the mainstream. So that's what I feel strongly about. And I always recommend to decision makers, please start tracking the data in a gender disaggregated way.
Thank you so much, Sucharita. It's a very insightful point that you've made. So Sangeeta, coming down to you, from a corporate perspective, what are the barriers that are currently being faced by female leaders? and future leaders. And again, this must be a conversation we all have had at several forums. But if you can just guide us a little bit on how do we actually overcome them? Because one of the challenges that we also run into is overcorrection of a problem, right? So if you can actually also address that, it'll be brilliant.
Absolutely. So one is, I think, everywhere around us, not corporates, not tech, not business or entrepreneurs. If you look at everywhere around us, we don't have enough women mentors and role models. I think that's sort of the first challenge, because even if you have, a male mentor, and again, not being gender specific, but some of the inherent challenges that a woman leader has faced, if that leader is mentoring some other upcoming talent in the organization, she is able to guide the person better, right? And I think that is, we don't have too many women leaders out there who can be mentors. The second thing is that typically it happens everywhere. There's exclusion from these informal networks, right? Your sports clubs or meetups after office. Not every woman leader has the time to sort of go and tap into that network. Other things what Mabel mentioned, right, is gender stereotyping, saying that if you have reached a certain stage in your personal life, you have responsibilities, so you can't take up more responsibilities at work. There are these unconscious biases that people have, and they make assumptions and decisions for the women that are working in the organization. And in fact, I just happened to speak to a very well-established woman founder today. She's launching her second venture, and she was saying that, the first thing I was asked was, hey, your son is grown up and is going to go to college, so you will go with him abroad. And she's like, why? I mean, why would I leave my my home? So, there are, I think one is just the awareness is not there in the in the workforce, right? Whether it is a corporate or any entity that you work in. So just to overcome some of these things, I think one is just create that awareness of what does it mean to unblock these barriers for women, right? And second thing is that while we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion, is it really happening top down? Is it also a business priority in the CEO's office? I think that's something that every organization should sort of blueprint and roll out. And third, to Sucharita's point, also tracking. Measure how are you as a corporate or as a business entity doing on increasing women in the workforce, and what are some of the policies that you have in your workplace environment which doesn't just bring in more women but also make the whole work culture more inclusive. That's when you start seeing the needle moving everywhere.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. I think Sucharita and you have touched upon all of you have touched upon very important points. So coming down to you, Mabel, one of the first important questions, again, we should have asked is, how do we actually embrace change? Because all the things that we are talking about, there is a need to be embracing a change, but we also need to be very realistic about the new reality. So what are your insights on enabling more women entrepreneurs to be scaling up faster and better, but still being realistic? What are your thoughts on that?
A lot has to do with the power of having the right mentors in the ecosystem, to have mentors whom you can speak to and and throw your ideas at and say, is this feasible enough? How do I go about solving this problem? Or here's a roadblock I faced. How do I circumvent it? Somewhere, that power of having a mentor come in and help you understand your thought process and then help you navigate things around. That's going to be a very big start to how to see this entire thing grow from from having a few of us to many more of us out there. Second, I feel it's also pivotal to have more women investors in the ecosystem for promoting these kind of women entrepreneurs. For at least I know a bunch of venture capitalists who very strongly focus at women founders, and having them around and encouraging, having not just a pro women centric view, but at least a gender neutral view, that if I'm taking a decision, I'm not taking a decision because there is a male founder. That I'm okay to take a decision even if it's a all women team. Having those kind of investors in the ecosystem is going to be a big role or a game changer. Third, definitely the power of the government. Nothing supersedes that. Having as many programs, we already have initiatives by a lot of state governments, but having much more of such initiatives by the state governments come in, and even from the central government, the big push that they're trying. There's a lot of work that METI, NASSCOM, a lot of other bodies are doing at the central government level as well to promote women entrepreneurship. So somewhere these three key things are pillars to growth and nurturing more women entrepreneurs, having the right access to mentorship, right access to capital, and the right access to policies, or having a government to back up whatever the initiatives others are, or even independent bodies are doing. All these three things are important. And fourth most important part is we ourselves. We need to be less critical about what we are. Many times, as women entrepreneurs, we're just sitting on that fence thinking, should I do this? Is this right? Is this wrong? Just don't think so much. Somewhere, just relax, take it easy. It's okay to make, it's okay to fail. It's okay to make a wrong decision. It's okay to learn as long as there's growth. And being a little self-critical is also the most important factor to get all of this right.
Thank you so much, Mabel. It was a very valuable point. So Nisari, coming on to you, I know you touched upon it a little bit in your previous answer, but we'd like to find out from you, given that you work in the financial literacy space, how can women entrepreneurs actually drive more business growth and enable, as I think Sangeeta was also mentioning, enable more women-led startups to survive? Can you just briefly touch upon that?
Yeah, sure. So first, financial modeling of the business. Mm-hmm. So like I mentioned, women are more focusing on the product or the services they are giving. Of course, that is very important. And other than that, the financial modeling of a business, how profitable it is. It is not about how many sales you're having, how much profitably you are running a business. That is very important. So that kind of thinking, like for each sales, it is not about how many customers I'm having, how many sales I'm making, but how much profit I'm making, how I'm growing this business. That is very important. Secondly, I would like to tell women entrepreneurs not restrict their vision to their city or their state. Now, today we see a global market. So they have to think outside, like it is not just my city, my town, the world. I mean, you have to grow your network beyond your boundaries. You get help from a good network of mentors or guidance or the ecosystem, even funding support from other cities in different parts of the country or even at a global level. So equipping ourselves to reach that level, go beyond our boundaries is very important. And nowadays, a lot of platforms, a lot of networking group for women are coming forward. There's a lot of ecosystem support. But what I feel is that there are a lot of schemes also for women, but many are not aware of it, because these are scattered in different platforms. If you take what are the government schemes available for women, there are a lot, but many of us are not aware of it. So if we have a uniform, one platform where all these things are in one place, or something like a Ready Reckoner, or create more awareness of these things, more women can avail, make use of these services and schemes and scale up their businesses. And the women empowerment is, it's a buzzword today. A lot of activities are happening, more are more required and more are on the way it is happening. So in such a way, if we are creating that strong network of women helping women, because women can understand their own unique problems. So if we are creating that network of women helping women, we can do a lot of difference in the society. We can really fill up the gap, because 50% of Indian population is women. But if you're taking women entrepreneurs, it is less than 20%. So we have to come a lot more. For that, we need not just support of men, we need support of other women also to bring the network, grow together, co-create things. So a lot, of course, policy is important, platforms are important, the right mentoring, the family and societal support, and the change which has to come within ourselves. So all this can together bring a lot of difference.
Thank you so much, Nisari. Very valid points. So next to you, Sangeeta. Sangeeta, you touched again. I know all these are conversations we've covered very briefly in the previous answers also. But one of the interesting points that you made is you have D&I programs, but are they working or not? But coming on the other side, wanted to get your insights on why women make for successful workforce, and how can corporations, in addition to having a mentoring system and a paid forward kind of a mechanism, how can corporations bring a lot of women back into the workforce? Because there's a lot of re-entry kind of programs that are being done by corporates, but again, as Sucharita did mention, there's not a lot of data that is there. So how do we actually make sure that we can enable more women to be part of the workforce? And one of the questions we had was, how do we get women return to workforce as well? So your insights from a corporate mindset, please.
Sure, Deepti. In fact, we were just discussing yesterday for this panel, and Mabel made an interesting point of saying that, maybe more women come to join a certain team because the manager or the leader or the founder of that organization is a woman. And she was giving an example of her own organization, which is actually true. There's a study which indicates that, if there is a woman manager or a leader, other women tend to, they show more interest joining that particular team or organization. Because I think somewhere that inherent, like I said earlier, if you've gone through that journey, if you've sort of faced those barriers and challenges, you would want to unblock that for the other underrepresented community, right? So that's something which is definitely proven. Sorry, I actually missed the second part of your question. If you could just repeat that.
So Sangeeta was speaking about returnship.
Yes. So maybe I'll take an example of Microsoft. We have this program called Springboard, which is women typically take a break when they go on maternity leave. Some of them, they avail the maternity leave and then they're like, no, either there's this guilt or they naturally want to basically just take a break in their career, take care of the child till the child grows to a certain age, and then they want to come back in the corporate world. So Microsoft has started this program, and a lot of other organizations are doing various initiatives. But as part of Springboard, what we do is we get some of the one Microsoft women who have taken a break and who have taken a break in their career, bring them back into the corporate world, and even other women who have taken a break, literally like do a showcase of the opportunities that are there, what's happening in the particular tech space or in the area, and let them decide if they're interested in exploring any of those opportunities, right? It's a dedicated, focused program for women. And this is again tracked within Microsoft. This is something that is actually measured by the business leaders in terms of seeing what is the kind of impact that we are doing. So irrespective of what kind of initiatives various programs do, and a lot of, in fact, startup founders are doing that. And I'm taking the liberty of sharing this, but ChargeBee basically does some fantastic initiatives and programs to encourage women in the startup space. So as long as there is focus, mindshare, and tracking happening at the leadership level, and it all translates down to everybody executing the program, it makes it more impactful, Deepti.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Sangeeta. Yes, absolutely. Trickle-down effect of the focus of the leaders is very, very important, mainly that we've seen in the returnship. So Sucharita, one of the most important things that both Mabel and also Nisari touched upon is awareness of existing support mechanisms. So one of the important questions that we would like to ask you, based on the breadth of work that you've done, what is the way to enable more enabling environment for women entrepreneurs, and what kind of policy reforms do we need for more women entrepreneurs to be part of the ecosystem? The reason I ask you this is because if you see, there's a lot of support mechanisms which are already there. Every policy that is being rolled out has a small section for women entrepreneurs, which says, social demographics and also women and physically challenged all in one place. So what kind of policy reforms would you recommend to enable more women to be supported by government mechanisms?
Yeah, sure. I'll like to address that. But before that, quickly, I want to add a couple of thoughts to what Sangeeta just shared about what the corporate sector, in particular Microsoft, is doing. And incidentally, I wanted to tell you, I think you are in sales, right? So some years ago, Ravi Venkatesan, who was chairman of Microsoft, came up to me and he said, "Show me some women in sales. Where are the women in sales?" And glad to see that there are some great women there. One of the things that corporates are doing, and I would like to quote Goldman Sachs in particular, they have a sponsorship program where very senior leaders like VPs, directors, etc., sponsor a potential employee within the corporation and really work closely with mentoring them and sponsoring them for higher levels and positions. And that really works very well, builds huge confidence with the women employees. I'd also like to say that there are now organizations. We ourselves have one of our members has something called Her Second Innings. And what she's doing is she is taking in women who have taken a break and reskilling them, especially in technology, because technology moves so fast. So she trains them in technology skills and places them with corporations who are looking, as Microsoft, Sangeeta mentioned, to bring in more women. So, there's a lot of action happening. We just have to keep networked and connected and see that we work together. So coming to what needs to be done, I think, the other day, last week, I was in a panel and one of the panelists, Hardika, she talked about, business in a box. I think the very first thing, which applies to all businesses across the board, and especially women, because they are still not aware of the, how to go about doing business, because traditionally they've not been involved. The government policymakers have to look at how to make ease of doing business a huge priority. That has to happen and implement it, not just announcements by the ministers, but implementation. So I love that term, doing business in a box, like a toolkit to get a startup started on the way. I thought that was a brilliant idea. And I think, one of you spoke about, all the government schemes that are there and that awareness is missing, which is very true, especially women, because they're not part of business networks. They don't know about what are the schemes which have been announced by the government. But I have also got a lot of feedback from our women entrepreneurs to say that when they went and wanted to apply or even applied for those schemes, there were X number of hurdles. They are sent from one desk to another, one place to another, and ultimately waste a lot of time, and it doesn't come through. So that's really something, I think in our economy, we have to look at actually not just making announcements, but implementing them. And I think all of us who are in the ecosystem have to really work with them to see that this happens.
Thank you so much, Sucharita. And we are really hoping that in Telangana we are walking the talk, because VHub was actually made an announcement at Global Entrepreneurship Summit, and we've been in operation for about 3.5 years, and we are a reality. And T-Hub, which also was an announcement when State was formed, is now the biggest reality. And you can see the kind of enabling ecosystem T-Hub has created for entrepreneurs across the spectrum. So very quickly, maybe I think there are about many questions, but the common theme across many of these questions that we are actually seeing is, okay, gender bias. And there is a question from one of the interesting questions that we had was from a lady called from Chitra Banu. She actually said, I request all of you to put emphasis on the age group of 40 plus. So Nykaa is a big example, right? So how would you guys like to answer if somebody wants to start something new at 40, how do they get started? And what are the avenues that are available? And is it a right age to start? That is a question from Chitra Banu.
I would say age is just a number. It's what you feel like in your heart. So there's no right age to start up.
Yeah. Sucharita?
Well, all I can do is point towards the numbers in our network. I think about 45% of our entrepreneurs are in the 35 plus age group. So, I don't think you have to be young necessarily to get started. Yeah. A lot of women we have found have been in jobs, taken a break, and then decided to become an entrepreneur instead of going back to a job. A lot of women decide after their children have started going to college, for example, or regular school, they then decide to start up something themselves. So there are a lot of women of different age groups, and especially 30, 35 and 40 plus, who are getting, starting up their own enterprises and doing very well at it. And they also say that, being in a network with others who are like them, they learn a lot from each other. Mm-hmm. And, talking about, role models and, unicorns like Nykaa, I think all of us have emphasized that we need to identify, create, and showcase a lot more of the role model success stories. And that's when a lot of other women will get started and, have the courage to, aspire to be successful to that level. It's like, oh, if she could do this, I can do it too. So let me try. And that's really what we have to aspire towards: creating, identifying, encouraging, creating, and showcasing a lot more successful women role models in every sphere. And, another thing which I would like to emphasize as I finish is what we always keep messaging to our women entrepreneurs is to think big, which is what we find a lot of women do not do. They think small, they stay small, they don't grow big. So think big, get started instead of thinking, oh, this problem, that problem, how to do it, all that stuff. Get started and keep going, because in life, there are always hurdles, there are always challenges. But the thing is to keep going. And there are, all of us, T-Hub, WeHub, and in Karnataka also we have the government of Karnataka doing fantastic work in that space. A lot of support systems are available everywhere. Just reach out and make use of it.
Thank you so much, Sucharita. And with that, I think Sangeeta, Nisari, Mabel, and Sucharita, it's been a very inspiring conversation with all of you. And one thing is very clear. I'm sorry, Shankar, we are going about 2 minutes over time. And one of the important things, 3 key takeaways, get started, I think, is the first takeaway from all of you. The second thing is financial enablement is the big part of empowerment. And empowerment is one of the outcomes of entrepreneurship. They're not the same. And last and most important, tracking of data is very, 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 very important, right? So these are the 3 things that we got from this. And for any questions, we would also share, Shankar request to share the information of all the panelists here, because a lot of engaged audience is here. So thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, and wishing T Hub a wonderful 6th year and a lot of success at a state and central level. And we look forward to getting together to enable entrepreneurship across the country. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.